Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode right here on
Dar
and Rene. Certainly hope you guys enjoyed our very last episode, and don't forget of course to like and subscribe as well. And today's episode of the Dar and Rene will be talking on a subject which I feel is very relevant, and I know you guys probably know about it. It is all about recession. That's right. That's something that everybody's so afraid of, governments talk about, and analysts always try their best to predict. Okay, and for those of you out there who are not familiar with the word recession or what recession is all about, let me get my good friend Dar to tell you a bit more about what a recession is all about. Okay, Dar, so what is a recession basically?
Well, basically when we talk about recession, we got to refer to the US Treasury yields.
Right.
Okay, so right at the moment, when we actually buy a US 6 months bonds, we get a yield of 4.5% per annum.
Okay.
And we purchase a 2-year bond yields, we get a 3.8%. And when we purchase a 10-year bonds, we get a yield return of 3.3%. So what does that mean? Okay, it means that the further that you carry a good view on the economy and invest for 10 years, you're actually getting lower returns. Hence and so forth, everybody will be more interested in buying bonds and bills of a shorter term, between 6 months to 1 year, and that actually put all the development and all the business investment on the far end or the downside, thus causing a recession. Okay, so
but in layman's term, what does a recession really mean? I mean, you know, for those people who are not familiar with it.
Okay, recession means people will be out of job will be shrinking, all right, then the economy slow down, the government will cut down on spendings, all right, and people has got less money to spend, and things are getting more expensive.
Right. So in other words, it's time to tighten your wallet and you know, and watch your spending.
And be on your toes.
Be on your toes and watch your spending, and I think that's very important. Okay, and with that said, now let's jump into our questions for this episode. And once again, it's all about recession. My first question for Dar is: many economists say a recession is coming this year. However, we have seen regional economy slowing, and also but for Singapore property as well, the market is still rising fast. Tell us about what do you know about this matter and shed some light for us on this, sir.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, when we look at the bond yields, all right, people are more interested in buying the bonds on the near end and the far end. That means on the lower term of maturity. So likewise in Singapore, all right, although we are looking also at the SORA rate, which pays a higher return on the front end and the far end. But the fact is that over the last 3 years, Singapore has got a lot of good monetary policy that has invited a lot of foreign funds to come in, like all the high net worth customers from China, from EuroM, all right, and from Eastern Europe coming to Singapore to settle down, and that's why our housing prices have been rising like crazy.
Right. Yeah. Can I say? And you mentioned about that, and I believe also a lot of family offices have been coming down. Singapore has been encouraging a lot of this high net worth people with funds to come to Singapore and set up their family offices, and I think we've seen a lot of that as well.
Yep. Correct.
Okay, so now let's jump to our next question. So when was the last time we saw such an inverted yield curve, and what happened after that? A bit technical, but let's see what Dar can tell us.
Let me on the technical part. Well, the last time we saw this inverted yield curve, that was in the year of, well, let me search, right, 2007. All right, 2007, when Northern Rock started collapsing in US, in UK, then followed by US bank crisis, like now what we're saying, and the inverted yield curve actually lasted for 1 year, moving to 2008. That's when the subprime crisis actually erupted. Right.
So like you mentioned, the inverted yield curve happens, and the last time it happened was also basically in a similar situation when banks were having problems, and you actually were seeing that once again, right? And that was in 2007
this is a dangerous sign.
Yeah, it's been quite a while, and now for that kind of curve come again, I guess. Yeah, it's really a good indicator, I guess, for us to be familiar with when a recession is coming. Okay, so this round, how long do you foresee the recession will last? In addition, how do we invest in a recession?
Well, if you ask me how long it will last, first of all, let's take a look at when did this inverted yield curve start. That was last year, July. Right. So, as I mentioned earlier, in 2007, after the inverted yield curve lasted for 12 months, then subprime crisis erupted. Hence and so forth, now when we're looking what we are now, starting from last year, July until now, we are very quickly reaching the 1 year time period on the inverted yield curve. That's the reason why I'm looking at recession is going to really start hitting badly in the third quarter this year.
Okay.
All right. So when recession comes, everybody will tighten the belt, And what's the question earlier? The second part.
The second part of my question is, how do we invest in a recession?
All right. Okay.
Very
How do we
important question.
invest? Very important questions. Well, in recession, everything is coming down. Stock prices coming down. Gold prices is a little bit rising now, but
Right.
I think they're going to come down for a small correction. And there's a saying, in recession, cash is king.
Okay.
Keep a lot of cash.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
That's the right strategy.
Yeah. Okay, and you mentioned about recession, and I think that like everybody thinks in a safe haven, gold is always something that
Yeah.
we want to invest in,
Yeah.
right? I mean, so yeah, so you're saying now cash is king as well,
Yeah.
which I think is a good thing. Okay, now let's jump to our next question. Let's say if the recession really hits Singapore, how do we manage our business and investments?
Oh, that's a very tough question.
Yeah, I know, but I think it's very relevant for everybody out there in Singapore, especially.
Okay, two parts.
Yeah.
First of all, let's take
Okay.
a look at business. All right. In recession, if you're
Okay.
running a business,
Okay.
how do you manage it? Is in the first place, reduce your leverage. That means borrow less money. Okay. Not simply just go around and borrow money because you're gonna pay back, and when the borrowing cost increases, that is going to put a burden on you.
Okay, sorry, stop for a minute. But okay, so during like you said, during this time, right? For banks' interest rate, is it going to be higher or lower, or
It's rising now.
it's rising now?
Things are getting
Okay.
expensive,
Yeah,
right? And the second thing is, all right, expedite your revenue collection, which means if anybody owes you money, your client, your supplier, whoever they are,
Okay.
start to collect back as soon as possible.
Okay.
Reduce your credit term, because the longer you let the money float in the market,
Okay.
the danger is in a higher side that you may lose them.
Right.
All right, that's very important.
Right.
And thirdly, of course, if you can, do whatever you can to expand your clientele base, expand your business revenue, but at a lower cost.
Right.
That's on the business part.
Okay. What
All
about?
right.
Okay. So what about for, say you're talking about business? What about for the individuals out there? How do they kind of like manage their investments?
Okay, for individual, and we talk about investments. All right, try to be very, very cautious. Keep a lot of money in cash,
Okay.
especially at the moment now. I think putting money in US dollar is one of the best choice because they pay you high interest rates, and US dollar is rising. All right, try to avoid all the risk asset. So, what are the risky assets? We'll talk about cryptos. We'll talk about maybe
Things with high volatility. I guess.
high volatile
Right.
mini stocks. All right, even bonds are dropping because the yields are rising. So these are all the things that we should be avoiding.
All right. Okay. Well. Okay. I think that is really, that's really useful, especially
Yep.
everybody, like I said, on their minds. Everybody's thinking about recession, and I think this is really going to help
Exactly.
them. All right. So, do we have anything else that's going to be happening for this episode? You mentioned some questions maybe for.
Oh yeah, there's a question coming from one of the lady.
Oh, yeah.
Eliza, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
So we actually had some questions from some of our viewers when we mentioned about that we're doing this topic. Okay, we've got time for two questions.
Only two, yeah.
Only two for Mr. Dar right here. This one is from Elizabeth from Tiong Bahru, right? And I think she's got a very important question for you as well.
Okay.
What are some of the signs that a recession is coming?
Signs of recession. All right, going back to my first answer, we are
Right.
looking at the interest rates. The short-term rates are paying higher than the far-term rates.
Right.
Exactly in Singapore now, if you walk into the bank, you ask for SORA rate, okay, whether it is our three major banks, you will see very clear sign of what I just mentioned. All right. When you put FD in the 6 months compared to 1 year and 2 years, you always get a higher return on the near term.
Okay.
That is a sign of recession right now in Singapore.
Okay, so
Right.
okay, once again, so as Da mentioned, look out for those signs. And next question
Definitely.
we have is somebody, this Timothy Lim from Tampines. All right?
Timothy,
and,
yeah.
and I think he kind of asked a question which we already kind of went through just now. But anyway, what are some of the safe investments to go into in times of a recession?
All right, the answer is simple. Okay, then again, I just mentioned cash is king. Let me explain this.
Right.
All right, the definition.
Okay.
So in recession, we mentioned cash is king. Why is that so? Because when you put money in the bank as cash, as an FD, you earn much more money now, whether it's 3 or 4 or 5%, than putting money in the blue chips. Because previously, when interest rates are paying at about 0.5%, everybody preferred to put the money in the blue chips at that time, because blue chip stocks, or we call component stocks, they actually paid about 2% per annum.
Okay.
But at this moment, it is never wise or intelligent to put money in a blue chip at 2% per annum, which compared to what you're getting from the bank, 4 or 5% per annum. That's why cash is king.
Right. Okay. Right, really useful, information. And once again, thank you to all our viewers for those questions. And once again, keep those questions coming in for Dar and myself. We'll do our best to answer as many as we can in our next episode. And I guess that's about all the time we have for right here on our episode.
Right.
And on behalf of myself, Rene, and
Dar,
we want to say thank you so much for joining us right here on
Dar
and Rene.
signing out.